Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel where I provide regular cricket content on interesting topics. In today's video I run down who I believe to be the top 5 captains in the history of cricket. I will be considering a number of factors to help make my decision, including their captaincy record, the players they had at their disposal and their leadership attributes. Before I get started, can I ask for some help? I am making a video documenting the best entertainers in cricket of all time, and I need some suggestions. So please fire away in the comments with who you think the best entertainers have been in the Test arena. Right then, back to the captains, shall we get started? Number 5, the protector, Arjuna Ranatunga. Ranatunga made his debut in Sri Lanka's first ever Test at the age of 18, and made his country's first Test half-century. The distinctively built Sri Lankan became an instantly recognizable figure on cricket fields all over the world for the next 20 years. Ranatunga was never the best batsman in the world, but he was handy and scored runs at important times. He ended up with over 5,000 Test runs at an average of just over 35. But it was through his captaincy where he really made his mark on the game. Ranatunga took over the Sri Lanka captaincy in 1988, taking control of it for the next 11 years. He ended up transforming Sri Lanka from a weak, routinely defeated team into a competitive and successful unit. He never shied away from confrontation, defending his players and their rights to the hilt, most famously Matai Muralidharan, the team's spin bowling talisman, against allegations of chucking. It was during this period where I think he earned his place in this list. He took up a no-nonsense stance in complete, devoted support of his star player, to the point of walking off the field. In interviews he didn't buckle, on the field he showed no weakness in terms of his support. For those reasons he fits in my top 5 captains. Number 4, the winner, Waugh. Unlike Ranatunga, Waugh was a world-class batsman in his own right. He was a gutsy, never-say-die batsman who could bring the Aussies from the jaws of defeat to winning positions. When he came into the side, the Australians were in a state of change, having recently lost an Ashes series and were waving goodbye to some of their retiring greats. Once he had established himself in the team, he was a natural successor to Mark Taylor, taking over the captaincy in 1999. What was to follow was unprecedented in the history of world cricket. Waugh would mastermind a team full of superstars to dominate the sport both at home and away. Waugh was an astute tactician and a master at turning the screw when a rival team was on the ropes. He was Test captain for 57 matches, recording 41 wins and just 9 losses. This left him with a win percentage of 72%, which no one has gotten close to in the modern game. So why is he not number 1? If you placed him as your number 1 it would be hard to argue with. But for me, with the players he had at his disposal it would have been hard not to be successful. He really was a fantastic captain, but what impresses me slightly more is when skippers get the best out of lesser sides. Something that perhaps Waugh never got to prove he was capable of. Number 3, the fighter, Sourav Ganguly. The Indian legend was a fine player in his own right in both Test and one-day arenas. He was an extravagant left-handed batsman who could dig in for an innings or dominate attacks. He scored at a healthy strike rate and ended up with 16 Test hundreds to his name. When he took over the captaincy after the match-fixing episodes in 2000, he quickly proved to be a tough, intuitive and uncompromising leader. Under his stewardship India started winning Test matches away, and put together a splendid streak. His record as a Test captain stands at 49 matches, 21 wins and 13 losses with a good 42.85 win percentage. The Indian side had some talented players, but they needed someone to pull everything together, and Sourav was that man. His nickname of Dada stems from it meaning him being the eldest brother. In my view he was literally the elder brother of the whole team and would fight when he needed to support his teammates. By the end of his time in charge they were a united, world-beating side. Number 2, the leader, Imran Khan. I will not for a second pretend that I know anything about politics in Pakistan, but if there is one cricketer who I think about leading a country it's Imran Khan. As a player he is undoubtedly one of the all-time greats. With a batting average of around 38 and a bowling average of 22 he would walk into any Test side in history. He actually got better as his career went on. In his last 10 years of international cricket he played 51 Tests, averaging a sensational 50 with the bat and 19 with the ball. For me though he was almost as good of a captain as he was a player. His record as a captain stands at 48 matches, 14 wins, 8 losses and 26 draws. This results in a win percentage of 29%. That doesn't sound as impressive as some of the others in this list, but it shows to me how hard it can be to force results in Pakistan. One of the abilities which he does not get enough credit for in my eyes is his ability to guide and mentor players. In Waugh Akram's recently released autobiography, he goes into great detail about this aspect of Khan's captaincy. Akram credits Khan with as not only his inspiration but his teacher also. Khan also helped Waugh Yunus develop into the force that ruled the world. Another thing that made Khan a great leader in my book was his coolness under pressure. This culminated in his crowning glory of a World Cup winning side in 1992. For me, Khan really sums up what it takes to be a leader of men, and it earns himself number 2 on this list. Number 1, the father figure, Mike Brearley. Before you jump for the dislike button and the comments section, hear me out. Have you ever in the history of the game heard of a player being picked as a specialist captain? Well, that is exactly what happened with Brearley. As a player he was essentially terrible. Are you ready to be shocked with some stats? In 39 matches he never scored 100 and averaged 22 with the bat. Just for those unsure, he was actually meant to be a batsman. But what he lacked in batting ability, he made up with captaincy, justifying his place in the side. Brearley unusually combined a scholarly mind. He has a degree in moral science at Cambridge University, with a total lack of intellectual snobbery. This enabled him to make and maintain relationships at every social level. It wasn't therefore field placings which made him such a great captain. Instead it was that Brearley was able to bring the absolute best in his players. Both Ian Botham and Bob Willis had vastly improved records playing under Brearley than they had for the rest of their career. Botham, for example, averaged under 19 with the ball when bowling under Brearley. When he first took over, England at the time had some great players but were divided and a mess. Brearley pulled it all together and in 31 matches had 18 wins and only 4 losses, for a 58% win percentage. That's second only to Steve Waugh. He even wrote a book called The Art of Captaincy, but I think the Aussie Rodney Hogg summed him up best. He described Brearley as having a degree in people. It was that skill which allowed him to be number 1 in my list. So who have I missed? From my point of view there were 2 that I wanted to include, but no one likes a top 7 list. The 2 missing for me were Clive Lloyd and Graham Smith, who were both fantastic captains. But I just couldn't leave out any of the others. Let me know in the comments, and just as a reminder, if there are any of cricket's entertainers you think should make my next video, please let me know. Thank you all so much for watching.